In some footage used in this video, specifically in closed-off areas, there is quite a bit of flashing lights because of the muzzle flash. Viewer discretion is advised for those who suffer from epilepsy. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new Half-Life 2 beta mod. It's called Half-Life 2 2002 edition and it was made by Arthur96. The cool thing about this mod, or rather the unhinged thing about this mod, is that it's running on the leaked source engine, the one from 2003. Meaning it's very prone to crashing or bugs, but in my playthrough I only encountered 2 bugs where an NPC didn't continue a scripted sequence. It's not the first time that someone made a mod on the beta engine, and it's definitely not gonna be the last. But I feel like mods on the leaked engine have an odd feeling about them. I don't know exactly how to put them into words, but it feels very rigid, very basic. And that's expected, and I don't mean all of this in a negative way. What I mean is that it's different from your usual source mod. Okay, so what even is the 2002 edition? Basically, the mod author took most of the 2002 maps from the leak and laid them out in a chronological order to play through. This is a good opportunity for someone who doesn't want to download the leak itself or the mega build, but rather just wants to experience the leak right out of the box. This is also good news for those who don't want to deal with the command console and type in names of each map individually, so you don't have to look at the map list and decide what map to play. In this mod, you just hit new game and it'll go from start to finish on its own. Overall, I feel like the mod author has done a good enough job at quote-unquote patching up the maps. Obviously, the leaked maps aren't the finished product, so the mod author decided to add in some props, models, decals, textures, and, a little bit of touch-up here and there. They mention in the readme that all of it was done with Valve's style in mind, and for 90 to 95% of it, I'd say that's true. There were some cases, like the air exchange chapter, that felt very amateurish, but only in a sense of gameplay. Visually, it looked great as usual. Now, I have to admit, over the past 4 years, I have looked at so many beta maps, so many versions of the same place, I for the life of me cannot tell which map got which updates that the mod author mentioned in the readme. I'm saying that because in some of the maps, I didn't actually realize what had changed and what didn't. A friend of mine sent me some screenshots and pointed them out to me till I realized the differences. So the mod starts out from City 17, where we're going through different places, witness child labor, and see the stenographer's chasm. The map transitions aren't smooth. In some cases, like here in City 17, I wish they were, but in some cases, like from Kraken Base to the skyscraper, it makes sense because there aren't any maps in between in the leak that the mod could have used. We head to the Terminal Plaza, which was a staple of Half-Life 2 since the beginning, where it looked basic, and then it looked like this, and then finally it looked like this in the retail game. After taking in the atmosphere and looking at some very sus people, we see a Combine march and then promptly get captured by them. Then it cuts to us being in Kleiner's lab. The mod uses the cut dialogue, or rather an early version of the Barney-Kleiner conversation, but I think the mod shortens the dialogue, compacts it, since the early version was much longer than it should have been.
By God, Barney, they'll be scouring the city. Are you sure it's worth the risk?
Just get him in his suit and I can get him off to Eli's.
Eli's? But Dr. Mossman has been waiting for him.
Oh, and how's that supposed to work exactly?
Alex isn't here though. I'm guessing they wanted to use an early story beat where Gordon would meet Alex in the wasteland or something like that. This is a pretty straightforward section, and unfortunately it doesn't have the teleportation or the HEV suit sequence. Then we're in the Outer Canals. The map was lagging my game a lot at the beginning, probably because of the added entities and extra stuff like 3D models. The Outer Canals, which would later be turned into the Water Hazard chapter, has Gordon fighting his way through the canals, trying to escape the city. There was a very stark difference between this and the retail version of this chapter. First of all, I'm quite certain the early drafts of this chapter did not have the airboat or the jet ski. That element would be added in later down the line. The only problem with this chapter is the lag it has, and to a minor degree, some irritating enemy placements. But I love this version of the canals, quite specifically the area surrounding the canals, destroyed buildings and architecture. I feel like that's supposed to represent that this is the old city, another cut element from the story where it would be shown on the starting train ride, an unnamed city that was obliterated by the Combine during the 7-hour war and now lays dormant and abandoned outside of City 17. And oh, there were a couple of citizens in the tunnel talking about Vienna sausages and botulism. This is a fan favorite cut dialogue from the leaked files.
That can you got there, Regis?
Dunno. The label
This is
come
all
off.
over.
I figured we'd open her up and find out.
Wait a minute
Doesn't
with
anyone
that thing.
care what I think?
How do you know it's 50? How do you know it ain't got botulism?
Got what?
They're never.
You know, if your cans all dinged in, it might have botulism.
Next up is the Ravenholm E3 map. I feel like this specific area was supposed to be a demo map, but the mod starts the chapter from here and mashes in the rest of the maps. To the left is the entrance to the town, Ravenholm, or the Quarry Town, or the Mine Town, or any name you like. Ravenholm had a lot of names. Also plays very different, but at the same time very familiar. Like, overall, it is different, but there will be times where you look at one of the areas in the town and recognize it from the final game. Grigori doesn't show up right away, but you do get to meet him for a minute at the end of this chapter. This version of Ravenholm that the mod presents is quite fun to play through, but one drastic change is that you don't have the gravity gun here, which was kind of a staple of the Ravenholm chapter in the retail game. Next up, we get teleported to the Antlion Caves, probably through the mines underneath Ravenholm. There are cut versions of the mine maps in the leak, so hopefully the mod author will add those in a future update. It was quite nice going through these mines, which are way different. Specifically, they feel more open than the one in retail. Some of the caves also have open cracks in the roof and they let in some light. In the latter half, we also feel a great tremor, and then there's a sound. Quite possible that it's alluding to the Antlion King. Very nice touch. At the end, we meet up with Alex, and then it cuts to the Wasteland Depot map. If you've seen my recent video on the E3 2003 maps of Half-Life 2, you will immediately recognize this map as one of them, but again, they're with added improvements from the mod's author. The Wasteland is still technically in the retail game, but it is never explored as much as the original cut intended. Moving through the seabed to approach the depot felt very badass. The depot, as you know, evolved into Nova Prospect. We also get to fight the Wasteland scanners here, which are honestly quite a pain in the neck to defeat. One thing I actually didn't appreciate was the addition of invisible walls in the maps. That's something I feel goes against the whole design style of both Half-Life 1 and 2. Yes, they are in the retail games in a way that you don't notice them. They're usually in a place which is not easy to reach, but here it's right in front of you. Anyway, after a pretty nice battle with the gunship, some sniping, we head into the basement to enter the depot. The depot section itself was very short in the mod. There are prison maps in the leaked files that again, I hope get added into this mod. After that, it's everyone's absolute favorite place to visit, the air exchange facility. The outside perimeter of the facility is heavily guarded with soldiers and scanners, but I managed to escape them and head into the facility through a vent, as usual. As I mentioned earlier in the video, it was the air exchange chapter of this mod where I felt the gameplay was a bit lacking. I feel like the enemy placement is random across the map rather than strategically behind cover or something like that. And I gotta mention, I absolutely hate the stalkers and thank God they aren't part of the enemy roster in the retail game, even though they still exist there. On the surface, we meet up with Captain Vance. Now, I don't remember there being cut lines for Captain Vance in the leaked files, so I don't know where this dialogue came from. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Hell, Gordon Freeman, and about time, too.
Freeman, so you made it after all. Alex contacted me and told me you were coming. Obviously, I can't be seen talking to you, so I'll make it quick.
Now, this is the part where you pretty much have to cheese your way through. Using the OICW scope, I had to take out most of the enemies while in cover, because the moment I stepped out, I was shot down like a dog from all directions. I would suggest the mod author to add in some cover around the entrance of this area, like boxes or barrels, so it's easier to take on enemies and not get bombarded from all 8 directions. After this, we find the Borealis in a very shallow ocean. We also get to use the AK rifle. In the leaked files, there aren't any maps to connect the air exchange chapter to the Borealis. From early story beats though, that's how the game was supposed to progress. How did Gordon reach the Borealis? I have no idea. The Borealis chapter plays out pretty nicely and straightforward. It's fun to shoot down the Combine with the AK. There's also a working extinguisher in the mod, and of course there's also Adele. And he uses the dialogue found in the leaked files. Plus we also get this radio transmission from Kraken Base, which is one of the earliest audio files in the leak.
Captain? Johansson, you in there? I don't know whether I'm relieved or... What's this? Let's give it a listen.
Hyperborea, come in please. This is Kraken Base. Do you read? Our situation is critical down here. We thought you were sending someone. I repeat, this is Kraken Base calling Hyperborea. Is anybody up there?
From there we go to Kraken Base, where unfortunately Odell gets killed. His fate is unknown in the original story, so I guess it makes sense for him to die here when the Combine invade the Kraken Base. Now I'm gonna be honest, I don't like the idea of Kraken Base, and I didn't like the Kraken Base leaked maps, and I didn't enjoy this part of the mod. There were, however, slams here, so that was nice. Plus the addition of the new props and models made the game lag a lot. Now it skips from Kraken Base to Gordon crashing into the museum, or some might know it as the skyscraper. Basically, this is a later version of the Vertigo chapter where the skyscraper was turned into a museum. In the original story, Gordon and Alex go to weather control from Kraken Base, but like before, there aren't any weather control leaked maps to use in the mod. The skyscraper chapter in the mod isn't that long. You fight through a bunch of floors against the Combine synths, the assassins, and finally the Combine guards, where the mod cuts to black. Next up is the Striders map from E3 2002. This is basically a successor to the Street War maps and a predecessor to the Uprising levels from the retail game. One thing I absolutely love about this specific map is the time of day it has and the skybox. On a side note, one dear viewer always comments about making a skybox video. It's coming very soon. Okay, yeah, the map feels very dreamy. Now, this map originally had a Strider bust in through a building, but this mod uses the E3 version where we follow Alex into a sewer and face a Hydra. Now, there weren't any actual finished Citadel maps in the leak, meaning we don't exactly know what was going to happen there. An early story beat does tell us that Gordon would find Alex held hostage by Elena Mossman while the console turns into a monster. A later map in the leak has these maps in them, but no specific information about what would happen here. Similarly, the mod also ends very abruptly. You enter Breen's office while he's talking, but I'm guessing G-Man takes us out of this reality and puts us into stasis. This map is a nod to Hazard 01, by the way, a test map by Mark Laidlaw. At the end, it plays the usual Hazard 01 sequence, and then it says, "Evaluation aborted, timeline altered." I love this message and how it implies that this leaked beta universe does exist, but in a separate timeline than the retail one. But yeah, that's where the 2002 edition ends for now. This mod is still in development, and I'm hoping that Arthur Asta 96 adds in more maps from the leak and even maybe create his own. It would definitely be awesome to see a fully completed beta game or a mod. This mod is definitely worth checking out if you've never tried out the beta maps yourselves and don't know where to start. This mod packages most of the 2002 maps in one package, and it runs smoothly out of the box. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Thanks so much for watching, and a big thanks to these benefactors for supporting the channel. Unusual, T-Boy301, Tom, Jack, Taiwanesium, Bubba, Quiltman, 501st Clone Boy, Interloper CS, TTG, Robocop, Noel, Nobody Important, Franco Senlehi, Cheeseburger, Justin Imbergriff, Tedosaur, Otakan Nachos, Lambdre, Roadkill, Walter, Taylor, Hobgobbies, NoClick, Geote, Fisher Grice, Hawkasalt, Mr. Spaban, Jelen, A Normal Street Lamp, TRR Droid, and Bipolit. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.